reality. Sometimes it doesn't work, and then that's not what's happening. What? We're on the internet, baby. Look at that. Let me just make sure it's gone through here. And then we donezo. We are live. All right. Love the drop, love the beat, feeling it already. This is your Tuesday Soccerwise live show if you're on YouTube and Twitch. If you're not, you can go back and watch those on our YouTube channel as well. David Goss, Tom Bogert with you for this one. This is a big moment in Soccerwise history because this is my first hotel recording of Soccerwise. We've also got a lot more big stuff to talk about, but this is my Las Vegas edition right now, as I am at the rooftops of Las Vegas, hanging out in 118-degree heat, and yet it is the coolest I'll be in the recording because I have actual air conditioning, like an adult and like a human being. Tom, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm gonna pivot. Who cares about me? I need you to tell me who are the Knicks gonna sign with their last roster spots. I need to see the Summer League MVPs. I'm gonna ask you to FaceTime me from the arena.
Yeah,
whenever you watch one of these games. Thank you. I appreciate
it'll be me and Andres Hulk Porty or whatever the center they drafted from Australia is, who no one's ever heard of before. But I listened to a 20-minute podcast about on my way out here because I had nothing better to do on my flight.
I love you so much for that.
Yeah. No, I'm stoked. I'm going to go see them play in a little bit. I'm here for Summer League just to hang out. I don't work here. That's not what I do because we cover Major League Soccer. That's what we do. We've got a huge show coming up for you today. We, of course, will be back live to do MLS again on Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern time. That one will recap the midweek action we will all see tomorrow night. Of course, I'll be on with Jordan Angeli tomorrow to talk U.S. women's national team recap. The final send-off game is tonight at Audi Field against Costa Rica, and as well as the U.S.-Mexico game, which I was at. On Saturday, you can go to the weekend review show, which is already in the podcast feed if you want to hear more about that one already. But we've got some huge news coming for all of you. So first, what I do actually work and cover is Major League Soccer. I will be in Columbus next week for the MLS All-Star Game. Tom, you will be in Columbus next week for the MLS All-Star Game. So we're going to hang out. We are having our first ever live event. It's going to be a live hang at Land Grant Brewing, one of the best soccer bars, one of the best spots in all of Columbus. They've got great beer. They've got a great space for us to hang out. So we're going to do some live show stuff. We're going to record some stuff, but it's mainly just to get together. I know Andrew Weeby's beating our door down because he wants to be here. He's going to be there as well as a bunch of other people in the MLS circles who are going to be in town to join us. And we're going to get to hang out with any fans who are in market. So Columbus fans, of course, we want to see you. But anyone traveling for All-Star, Cincinnati fans, if you're in the region, whoever wants to be around, come to this one, Tom. We are stoked about this.
I can't wait. One of my, again, at the beginnings of us talking about what we wanted this to be, like, live shows is one of the first things that we both said. And, like, it comes down to that basic point of, like, just want to hang out and talk soccer with like-minded people. And we think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm so very excited that when I say we, David Goss and our Soccerwise dads did a lot, or all of the logistical planning on this. So thank you guys for this. So I'm very happy that we figured it out to make it happen within a month of us launching. And I can't wait to see. I know that you guys are going to be there. I know that there's going to be some of our friends of the pod, some of our friends in soccer, and it's just going to be a phenomenal night. This is something that I would have been planning or been talking to people to be like, hey, where should we go on Monday to just hang out and talk soccer? The only difference is that we're just going to have microphones in front of our faces for some of the time, and the rest of the time we'll just be kind of hanging out. So we're going to record a show, like God said. We're going to have some other stuff going on. Free to enter. All you need is to just do a registration form just so that the bar kind of knows how many of you guys are coming. For us, hopefully that'll be a lot of people. But come raise a few glasses. We're 17 with us, and we'll have a fun night.
Yeah, we're going to show up around 6:30, start setting up. So the registration says 7, but it's an open brewery, so you're allowed to come whenever you want. I think they open at 3. And we are going to be there until they close. We're going to do some fun live show stuff for you all to enjoy. And then we're going to be, as Tom said, hanging out, chatting soccer, talking Columbus and everything else going on. We might get a little variety in Tom's beer diet for the evening, considering we're at an actual brewery. That beer is genuinely good beer. We might have to figure out a way for you to taste something that's not your standards that you normally go with.
This is like a misnomer in like when people talk about. I get texts from like sources across the league about my pizza choices because the penne vodka pizza stuff. Same thing with same. Just relax. Just give me a second to land the plane here.
Cool.
It's the same thing. My preference is Miller Lite light beers. That's the everyday. That's the starter that's gonna eat up innings. Old reliable. You know what you're getting. He's not gonna win the Cy Young, but it's like, we lost 2 games in a row. Throw Miller Lite out there. He'll give us 7 innings and give us a chance to win. So that's where that is for me. I do enjoy other beers as well, so I want that stated on the record.
Land grant 424 West Town Street. We will put up the poster on our socials. We'll be talking about this the whole time. It'll be in the Discord chat as well, which we've got some big news about in just a moment. The vodka pizza thing.
Go.
All of the people who are talking to you are not from the New York, New Jersey area.
Correct.
It is like a standard elite. I'm going to say New York. You can keep filling in the New Jersey afterwards if you want. It's a standard elite New York pizzeria slice.
Yes.
It's also and ziti, like it's a ziti slice actually, because a vodka slice has no. It's just vodka sauce. Yeah, exactly. That is an elite slice. So everyone who complains about that is showing their own ass, is what I'm saying on all of that.
I completely agree.
And I've got nothing to say on the Miller Lite thing, so I'll just leave.
This should have been a little bit higher in this announcement, but we are partnering with the legends at Nordecki, the Columbus Crew supporters section.
Yes.
They have been awesome to us. They, before this was even a thing, like when I was there for MLS Cup last year, a couple of them went out of their way to be like, hey, anything I can help with, anything you want, like whatever, right? Like they didn't have to do that, went out of the way to be nice, and again, can't wait to raise a glass with them.
And we, I think everyone knows this, but we are doing this show on our own for a chance to have some high-level independent coverage of Major League Soccer. And I know a lot of supporters and a lot of fans have been craving that and looking for that. And so I think it was a really big deal for me that they were open to working with us and being a part of this with us. And I hope we can make the week a little bit more special for all of them. We also have some plans. We're actually going to try and record something special that we've been talking about a little bit as one of our first series, where we're going to bring a recorder and record with fans for a project that we're going to be working on. So if you are in the Columbus area and you've got some good soccer memories, we would love for you to be a part of that. And then that's hopefully something that we can keep doing as we go along, because the hope is this is the first of many live shows. So we're really excited about that. And Nordecka putting out the announcement as well as we get this thing going and as we get this thing rolling along. So shout out to everyone who has asked us about this, because we've gotten a bunch of messages already of being like, are you guys going to do something? What are you planning? All of that. So shout out, and everyone who's helped us. Chris at the Nordecka, Ravi at the Nordecka have been super helpful to us out the gates immediately. Ty at Columbus as well. It's been awesome. And Adam at Land Grant, who has been super helpful and gets to drink steins of beer just all the time, because he owns a brewery and works at a brewery, which is the dream and which is the vibes. Speaking of hanging out and drinking beers, though, we have our second announcement of the day, which is we're going to do our first exclusive happy hour show for our Patreon subscribers of a certain level tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to kick it off on Zoom, and we will roll into the games for the midweek action. This is something that's going to be regularly occurring for Patreon subscribers at our second level. So if you want to be a part of that, go on and subscribe to our Patreon right now. It'll get you access to the Discord. It will also get you access to that show where we're going to hang out and have a private chat and, get to know the fans a little bit more. You can ask us any questions you want in that space. Tom will do his 97th AMA of the day, just in a different format on there. And all those links will be coming to Patreon subscribers. We'll be putting that out this evening, as well as in the Discord. So that's the only way to get access to that. So come and be a part of it and support us. Soccerwise on Patreon. Subscribe to all our channels. Subscribe to our YouTube. Subscribe to all our socials. Soccerwise HQ on all of that as well. And we've got a lot going on, clearly, because we've started the show with 2 to 3 announcements, and we haven't even talked MLS yet. You feel good, Tom?
I was going to say, this is great. Like, so if somebody listening to the podcast is like, oh, cool, there's been a lot. Columbus thrashed LAFC in like a historic regular season MLS game. Chicho Arango suspension that nobody knows anything about, transfers, all that stuff. And we've spent 13 minutes talking about Miller Lite, pasta pizza, and happy hours with friends. So that's I think that's good.
This isn't just the show people want, it's the show they need right now in their lives. Let's start with Columbus, though. We are on the way to Columbus. I'm going to walk there based off the time it will take to get there, and they are coming into All-Star in a historic stretch. You mentioned it, dominating in an MLS Cup rematch against LAFC. I talked about it a little bit on the weekend review, a 5-1 win there. Let me throw out some of the stats of what's going on right now. So they've scored 20 goals in the last 5 games combined. It is the first time in Columbus history. It's the first time since Philly in 2022 when they scored 23 goals across 5 games in that stretch where they just beat DC 6-0 every other day. Rob McBurnett, the Crew PR, tweeted this out. Darlington Nagbe sustained 4 fouls in the LAFC game. He's now the most fouled player in MLS history, 748 fouls. And on the goal side, Steve Sirk, who has covered Crew for a long time as well as anyone, says in their 29th season, tonight's the 20th time the Crew have won a league match by 4+ goals. 4 of them have occurred in the last 3 weeks. Their last 2 road games. So for an MLS original, almost 30 years in the league, what they have done over the last 5 games is equal almost to what they have done over the last 28 years. This is the game at the highest level right now. Tom, this is one of the highest levels we've ever seen in MLS.
Yeah, so the most impressive part of this is who they did it against here. On the road at LAFC, a team that had picked up, 28 of 30 points available in their last 10 games prior to this. It was a team that has been to MLS Cup, has been to CONCACAF Champions Cup final as well. Again, the Crew beat LAFC in MLS Cup last year in Columbus. So this game meant a lot. This is one for the Supporters Shield race and one for revenge. That was something that LAFC would have been talking about in training all week, right? Like, we lost MLS Cup. It was at Columbus. Now they have to come here. Let's show them what's up. Like, let's show them what could happen if we meet again this year. And hopefully, if you're arguing in the LAFC locker room, we win this game, we kind of take control. We're pushing for Shield, but also when we get back to MLS Cup, we want to make sure that we're hosting it, right? This just came in and absolutely flattened them. And what was so impressive is, one, as the Crew always do, win, lose, or draw, they dictated how the game is played. The game is played on their terms all of the time. And they are good enough that is usually means wins. That usually means points. That usually means positive performances. That was very impressive, particularly because of how well LAFC's been playing, and they've been more indicative of controlling the tempo and the games being played on their terms. The other thing that is so impressive to me is you just go back and watch the goals. It's the Cucho goal, individual moment of brilliance. A handful of players can do that in this league. Incredible. And then other ones are like intricate possession play. Phenomenal movement between the front 3 of Christian Ramirez, Diego Rossi, Cucho Hernandez, and then the wingbacks coming in. And it's just overloads all the time. It feels like they're playing with 13 players. So then that's intricate possession play. They got a goal off of high pressing and a defensive mistake. Ruthless, immediately. So this Columbus team, while they dictate how they want to play, they want to kill you with possession. They want to kill you possession with purpose and movement up top. And the way that those 3 forwards interchange, and it's an absolute nightmare for any defender. Who do you pick up? They never stop moving. They're always in different channels. One's always dropping, one's going deep, one's going whatever, right? Like the prototypical Crew goal between those 3, there isn't one because they can score all of the different ways, and it's an absolute nightmare. So just going across, like, okay, you want us to play and we'll pass the ball 25 times and score? We'll do that. You want us to go wing back to wing back? We'll do that. You want us to high press and take advantage of a mistake? We'll do that. And they've scored set pieces this year too. So it's just in a completely dominant performance. If you're LAFC, you try to say, it's a one-off, whatever. Yeah, it's awful, criticize whatever. Hey, it's one game, it happens in a long season. Let's not throw out everything. But, like, if you're Columbus, you say this is a historic run, and you say, like, not only should we be the favorites for the Supporters Shield, despite the CONCACAF Champions League run, which in years past, Toronto FC didn't make the playoffs that season after they won a treble, right? Like, all these things are historic,
right?
unprecedented. Yeah, Seattle, when they won the Champions League, they didn't make the playoffs the next year. Like it's this or that year. Sorry, it is unprecedented. The dominance. It's not just the points score, the points won. It's not just the goal score. It's not just the performance. It's all of those things happening all at once, and they're absolutely relentless.
Let me throw in a little more on the Columbus side, but I do want us to talk LAFC because I do think it's really interesting. Like, where does this game stand, and what does it mean? You mentioned the CCL part or the CCC part. I don't know. You're gonna have to like keep beating me over the head with that one. I might be a CCL lifer at this point as we go forward. That part is incredible. They have a funny little opportunity here, which is Columbus won MLS Cup, so they are through automatically to the round of 32 in Leagues Cup. The way the bracket is set, if Pachuca wins their group, they would play Pachuca in the round of 16, which is pretty cool. Pachuca's in the East group with Red Bulls and TFC. So it's not a guarantee for Pachuca one. Then they get out. They have to play, whatever. I don't know, West 96 seed and all of that just to get forward into the next round. But, like, if you're Columbus, that's the chance you're looking for, which is, like, let us play them, one, without the runs, and two, in our opportunity when we're in form like this. It is something we have never seen before in MLS to turn around off of a deep CONCACAF run, to have lost Aiden Morris already. It's not like a future sale coming. They lost one of their staples and one of their innings eaters. Like, he was another guy like Nagbe who is always available and always an option and a little bit flexible if somehow Nagbe was ever out of, like, you can play a bunch of people with him. Sean Zawadzki has stepped in. He's played really, really well. Their new transfers haven't arrived yet. So they've lost Aiden Morris without being able to replace him from a roster point of view. They've not taken a step back as they've gone forward. Schulte's been in and out a little bit with some Olympic stuff. They haven't taken a step back at all as they move forward. And I said this on the recap show yesterday. Watching Christian Ramirez pop up on the right sideline consistently because, like, there is so much rotation and flow, and then Farsi comes underneath him, and Rossi makes the long run to be the one who stretches the field while Cucho drops deep. It's like everyone's out of position in that moment, and they're so comfortable, and it works so well for them, and they are taking up the spaces that Orion Hollingshead leaves, and, like, understanding partially what their game model is and understanding their opponent as well. It's top notch. I stumbled over this yesterday on the show. I wanted to count them out of the Supporters Shield. I tried to last week when I said they dropped the points against Miami. Who knows? Then you look at Messi's ankle. Then you look at the what's happening with FC Cincinnati. We'll talk about LAFC in a moment. We'll talk about RSL in a moment. The Galaxy lost to FC Dallas, really only missing Joveljic in that game. Like, if the door is still open, this is a team that can take it if they want to. And the argument I made 2 or 3 weeks ago was, like, you won MLS Cup last year. So, like, what's the new thing to do is to win Shield. And I think if you're in the running, that's where you put your resources. That's where you focus.
Let me just say, like, you phrase it as if the door's open. No, the door is open. Like, they're on 2 points per game. Miami's at 2.04. Cincinnati's 2.09. They still have 2 games in hand. And yes, games in hand does not equal the automatic 6 points. But the way that they're playing right now, like, at LAFC, is there a more difficult game for a Eastern Conference team to go play?
Yeah.
And they just absolutely killed them. So, like, why? As long as they control their own destiny, which is a little silly to say with 13 games left, right? They're not going to win all 13 games, I don't think, at least. But as long as they control their own destiny, to some degree, that they are not relying on other results for the most part, like, the door is absolutely wide open. And that top 4, I think the top 3, the top 4 was Cincy, Miami, Columbus, and LAFC. And LAFC stock is going to take a little bit of a hit. And then RSL and the LA Galaxy, like, the crew, like, I don't know where you're at right now. It's tough to kind of pick a lean, but as you said, with the issues, defensive issues with FC Cincinnati, the injury to Matt Miazga, chief among them, the maneuvering they still need to do with Bupenza and bringing in another DP. Messi's hurt in Miami. Kromaski and Gomez are gone for the Olympics. All of these things, you go up and down. Again, LAFC just had what happened to them, to Columbus. It's tough to pick a lean, and, like, I think Columbus has a few question marks.
Yeah. So the 2 games in hand, where they come in, I think, is they play at Toronto as a midweek game in between playing at Cincinnati and hosting Orlando, which is a tough little stretch. The other one, they're at one other, like, quick turnaround MLS game is Philly at home, which right now is oddly not a competitive game. So, yeah, the opportunity exists for them still, it feels like, and they do control their own destiny, which is exactly what you'd want. This is like a team right now where you're like, let's just play every day. Like, why don't we just always play games? We don't need to train because they're rolling and they want to keep getting, opponents in front of them. Plus, I took Cucho and Diego Rossi in the Golden Boot draft because I was like, highest scoring team maybe. And it looks pretty good right now. So nothing to complain about on that side from my point of view.
2 of 10 players? Relax. I need Anders to do an update to this because he keeps ducking me, which makes me assume that me and Kalen are
winning. Yeah, it makes me assume that too because I keep asking and he keeps being like, I don't know, let's check it out. And you're like, he's being nice about it, which means he knows that I'm losing as well as you go along. For LAFC, first home loss. This is the first time they've given up 5 goals at home in the club's history. They've done it 4 times on the road. I think Houston was one of them last year or 2 years ago. They got annihilated in Houston, and they lose this game. Now, obviously, Giroud's not there yet. The other one is Kiki Oliveira was still with Uruguay for this game. Otherwise, it's a first-string
No
team
Tim Tillman either.
No Tim Tillman. Dwayne Yuss got the start there as well. Otherwise, it's a first-string team for this team, hosting at home, coming off a U.S. Open Cup semifinal or quarterfinal as well. How much do you read into this one for LAFC, and like, what does it tell you?
That's a fair question, right? Like, because one way that you could look at it is like, again, 3-0 wouldn't be ideal either, but like, hey, when the wheels came off at the end, they got a goal. There's Crew got a couple late ones, the red cards, all that, right? I think the best thing that you do if LAFC is just say, throw it out. Hey, things will change. Wasn't our day. And you just, again, you try to take learnings from it, but I don't know, man. When everything goes wrong, when like some of those mistakes out of the back, like, what do you do in a film session? Hey, don't misplace that pass, right? Hey, that Cucho just pinged one into the upper 90. What can you say some of these? And again, that's not to dismiss that there were plenty of things that I'm sure that they can take out of it. But I think for the group with midweek coming up on Wednesday and then one more game this weekend before Leagues Cup, I think you say, hey, like, we took our lumps. We should have a real sour taste in our mouth. But we sucked. Simple as. And let's move on. Let's move forward. And if you put it in the larger context of the run that they had been on before this, it's still a really strong period. Yeah. Now, the questions of LAFC in big games, LAFC losing MLS Cup final, LAFC losing to the CONCACAF Champions Cup final, all these things, this is going to go into that. That takes away some goodwill of, all right, so the next time that they play a really big team in the shield race, or if they have to wait for a Leagues Cup knockout round, that's absolutely going to be a narrative, and that's one that they've kind of dug for themselves, despite all the success of getting to this point where this, would this have been as a historic of result if LAFC were in 6th and they weren't in the shield race?
Right.
No, it wouldn't have been. So on one hand, it's, you can only lose big games if you get there, right? But I think that's a complete fair criticism or something that you look forward to for the next big game, and that's something that should be trailing them.
The big thing that stands out to me from this one, and is hard to judge because they've already signed Giroud, was that they can't keep the ball against a team like this. And that might be a misnomer in saying, because there isn't really a team like this. They just beat the Galaxy. The Galaxy are probably second on the list. I guess Houston as well, of possession, movement of ball, whatever. Columbus is in their own class.
Yes.
But they want to win MLS Cup. And last year that meant go to Columbus. And LAFC was never in MLS Cup. They were not in that game. They were not dangerous. They had no other idea unless Bouanga broke out. And that's what this game felt like for large stretches as well. And they were home. So I think that part's a little disheartening, except my assumption is they're going to be able to play into Giroud's feet and hold possession a little bit more and be able to shift some of that purely out of the quality of player that they have, and as well as you add Kiki Oliveira. But the way this game was played in this moment is disheartening because it doesn't feel like LAFC have taken steps since last year. And so you're kind of in a situation where you're hoping then that Columbus loses, because the matchup against Cincinnati would be different. I don't know what the matchup against Inter Miami would look like because we haven't really seen them that much this year and all that type of stuff. But that part, I think if I'm LAFC, I walk away saying, even with the red cards late, they had 37% possession.
Yeah.
And those were numbers they were fine with throughout the playoff run last year because they weren't very good. The team wasn't that good. They were set up to win knockout games. And I think you want to progress as you build as a club. But my assumption is Giroud will do some of that as they go forward. They have a huge game this week against RSL. We'll talk about that in just a moment. On the flip side, Columbus plays Charlotte on Wednesday night, which is actually a really fun
Low-key
game.
fun game, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a cool test where Charlotte is in this, like, we're a bend but don't break deeper block team that creates our chances in transition, similar to LAFC. And it will be interesting to see, can they raise their game up to Columbus's level? Can they threaten them in a moment like this? Obviously, you're coming off the Cincy win, so you're confident, you feel good. Abada scoring goals. Like, a lot is going right now for Charlotte. This would be a huge, no, we're not just the next good team in the East. Like, we're genuinely a part of the top half convo.
Yeah, that's fair. And it's interesting that they've arrived at that place. Like, I wouldn't put a lot of expectations on this game for them because, like you said, like they got that Cincy win. That's huge. If you split those two games, you're absolutely thrilled. And the other point is that we keep talking about this team in a future sense. And on Wednesday, the transfer window still isn't open, and they can't even bring back Swiderski, let alone bring in a DP9 or another designated player. So I think all of the conversation for Charlotte is going to be looking forward. And I think that this is just a bonus if they get any points. But like you said, it is an opportunity to be like, hey, like we're not even a full team yet. And like we just beat Cincinnati and then took a result off Columbus, right? If that were to happen.
I will say I'm a little offended that the bat signal didn't go up when someone named Tiger Smalls, spelt with a Y in Tiger, signed with Charlotte. I believe he's a British college soccer player. Where's the notice? Like, MLS community, where is the message to me saying this is happening? This is a reality in the world you live in. There's someone named Tiger Smalls now playing for this Charlotte FC team. Sir Minty.
It's true. That's
Where's
true.
the
That's completely fair. That's completely fair. I'm with you there.
So that just feels like a lack of performance for everyone across the board. I think we all have to come together and decide to be better. We mentioned LAFC are playing RSL. Let's talk RSL. Chicho Arango has been announced he is suspended for three competitive games and an all-star game. So he is suspended because of MLS anti-harassment policy. The team, quote, has fully cooperated with Major League Soccer's investigation and accepts the disciplinary decision. That was in an RSL statement. So the overall is being called a 4-match suspension. Is 2 MLS games, this match against LAFC, and then coming up this weekend, which is a Rocky Mountain Cup game. So 2 huge games for the team. The MLS All-Star game next week on the 24th, and then the first Leagues Cup match on August 1st for this squad. That is all the news that is out there, is that it's MLS anti-harassment policy, which I cannot find anywhere specifically on what that language means and what it means the punishment is for and what has gone on. And it has been done somewhat quietly on the side here. This is the Golden Boot leader in Major League Soccer. This is a team that's second in the West right now and having for themselves their best season in basically a decade plus. As a club under new ownership. This is a huge moment, and it's kind of gone to the side so far, and we don't know if that means it's going to be anything bigger after this or if this is just it.
Yeah, I think that's the disappointing part about this is the lack of transparency and details. Like, I can't even get an answer on, did this happen on the field? Did this happen at the training facility? Or did this happen just in home life, like outside of, air quote, the workplace of Major League Soccer Real? So, like, I don't even have an answer on that. And so it is disappointing, the lack of transparency, because this is a star player. This is a significant suspension. Again, 3 competitive games plus the All-Star game, which I think that they messed up the wording. I think that they should have said 3 games, plus he's also not allowed to play in the All-Star game, because people were like, wow, like that counts as one of the 4 games. Like, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume he doesn't get his All-Star bonus now. So, like, that's not insignificant in terms of his finances, rather than, obviously, it's insignificant in terms of the competitive season. But I digress.
Also, you assume it's a 3-game suspension, and then the middle is the All-Star, and you're like, well, we can't suspend someone for 3 games and then have them show up in the middle and represent the league and all that stuff.
Skills challenge.
Right. So then when you word it as a 4-game suspension, it was poorly worded. I think that probably is the kickback you're going to get from all of that.
Yeah. So again, just disappointment and the lack of transparency. We don't know what anti-harassment means, whether this is verbal or whether something, I have no idea, right? And there is no point to speculate. I think it's extremely dangerous to speculate, but like that comes with the lack of information. So Where I'm more comfortable talking is, what it means for this team, right? Just because we don't have any info, I'm going to try to keep asking questions, to keep seeing if somebody will say something, but they've been extraordinarily tight-lipped on this. So we'll see. Hopefully, myself or someone else can dig through this, but who knows, man? And it's a huge story for the Golden Boot leader and the leader for goals plus assists in MLS this season. He's got 28 goal contributions for a team that's in the Supporters Shield race, right? Like, this is significant news.
It is huge. This LAFC game as well, Andres Gomez is suspended on yellow card accumulation. So if we do it from a soccer point of view, you're missing your top two scorers in the matchup against the top team in the Western Conference, and one that you thought you were going to challenge against going forward. RSL have gotten performances without Chicho Arango. Saturday's game against Portland, take away the scoreline, I think it was the worst performance of the year for RSL. They looked flat offensively, a complete lack of ideas, very little movement off the ball to create opportunities, and therefore I think you saw you lost a little bit of the 1v1 danger that they've had all year because their defenders weren't scrambling. There wasn't as much 1v1 space. And defensively, I think the worst performance we've seen. You might be at the point where you're bumping up against the wall of, like, Bodie Hidalgo's played center back for as much as he physically can. Like, it's just, he's not a center back. Like, he doesn't bang with center forwards day in and day out. This isn't what he does. There are limitations to his game there, and other teams are going to keep looking for that. Philip Quinton playing a ton of time at right back as well, which is not ideal for this team. And, like, they may have bridged the gap as long as they could without Justin Glad. Now you're going to throw on an MVP candidate is suspended. So, one, you're dealing with what does that mean for your club? What does that mean for the locker room? Like, how does everyone react to this? We don't, again, know 100% what's going on. This could be something that's even more explosive inside the locker room. That could be a problem. And then you're dealing with the lack of options on the field. And then after LAFC, you've got a Rocky Mountain Cup against a resurgent Colorado team that they're going to be looking at this as an opportunity to steal this one from their rival. It is a huge week for this RSL team to decide what the 20.
I think you just cut out there.
You lost me?
Yeah. What was the end of that?
I don't know. I think I said something about the week. But we can roll on from there.
Perfect.
This is why we love to do the show live when we get the opportunities. LAFC, on top of this, Sergi Palencia and Jesus Murillo both got red cards against Columbus, so I assume they're suspended as well. So a little bit of forced substitution and movement for them. They can cover for most of that. They have Aaron Long. They have Eddie Segura, who has come back into the team. So they've got, and now Chanot. They've got center back options. Yep. Dwayne Yes is flexible and can play some of the spots. So that wouldn't be a huge concern, I think, if you're LAFC, especially if you get Kiki Olivero back. Because now we're going to figure out when national team players come back from Copa Americas and stuff like that as it goes along. But two top teams in the West here facing off, weird circumstances. This is going to be an odd one to finish the night on Wednesday.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. It's disappointing. And you kind of were pointing to some of the players that LAFC are going to miss. Like, I don't want to hear it with no Chicho Arango, no Diego Gomez.
Right.
Sorry, Carlos. No, just Gomez. Oh, too many names here. Anyway, my whole point is that, like, I don't want to hear it. Like, they've been their two best players this season. So it's disappointing that it's happening this way, just as, like, neutral soccer fans have wanted to watch this game. We were talking last week about, hey, here are all of the games that are going to impact the Shield race, and this was one of them. We talked about LAFC Columbus, then LAFC RSL, and we're getting a watered down version of it. But that comes with the Supporters Shield race. Like, not like few players start 34 games over the course of a season, right? Like, so there's always going to be injury, absence, and suspensions, and it's just unfortunate that, again, RSL's two best players are going to be out, and then LAFC are going to be missing a few as well.
Yeah, for LAFC, it is kind of must win because you don't play a lot of the other rivals in that Supporters Shield race anymore. And, like, if you steal 3 points off one because of what's going on here and at home as expected, that's a way to sort of resettle yourself and get yourself back into that conversation. So a huge game to close things out on Wednesday night there. And we will continue to cover this. Anything that comes out about Chicho Arango, come right here to Soccerwise. We'll be in the Discord as well. So as things break in between shows, like subscribe to the Patreon, become a part of that one. And Tom runs the mailbag in there or I run the mailbag. We put all of Tom's tweets in there. So if you don't want to be on Twitter, but you still want to get breaking news, that's another option of a way to operate. And we're going to continue to add to that. You get our depth charts, so you can go yourself and look and say, how does Chicho Arango's suspension affect the rest of this team? Where do we put the salary? We tie the salaries into those as well, so you can sort of get an idea through the transfer window coming up of, oh, this player leaving. It's not just X name; it's 350,000 off the books, all that type of stuff as we go forward. So I highly recommend jumping in there. And if you go to the MVP level, which is our second level, that's how you get access to the happy hour show that we're going to be doing tomorrow night, which I am very excited about. They will be Miller Lights exclusively, though, just because, midweek, you got to keep things flowing. It's basically a workout at that point. Let's talk a little skills challenge. Let's talk a little skills challenge. Next week, Tuesday night, that's going to be the All-Star Skills Challenge before the All-Star game, MLS against Liga MX All-Stars once again. I believe it's the only decent format we have in the All-Star game because I don't care if I'm being totally honest. All-Star games are rough. They are a rough experience. I've got some takes in there about this. You want to talk skills challenge first, or do you want to try and get me juiced for All-Star games?
I don't think that I'm going to try to convince you on an All-Star game, so you tell me where you want to go.
Okay,
I'm not going to be passionately defending it.
Okay, but you like the skills challenge.
Yes, I do. I think it's been a super fun wrinkle, and I liked how it's evolved over the first couple of years,
I agree with you. I think the skills challenge is the best part about what happens because it's not a real soccer game, and we don't need to watch the same players play in real soccer games non-competitively. The skills challenge is the most fun. It will be MLS against Liga MX, which also is really fun. You get that element. You also get on the field, and it's a lot of players who know each other, play international, have played at clubs together, all that other stuff. So it's always fun to sort of watch who interacts with who's sort of the team leaders in these groups and all this other stuff. And then we've got some legends that are going to be a part of it this time, as well as two female players. Diana Ordonez is coming from the Houston Dash to play with the MLS team, which is funny because she's a Mexican international. So, what are the odds that that's the one you found? She was on my list of the three most exciting young players in NWSL that I like to watch. Silky smooth, tall, playmaking 10, or can play as a 9, which is what we saw her do for Mexico a little bit off the bench, oddly enough, on Saturday. So that's going to be really cool. Sasha's playing? Is Sasha playing, or is he just there?
I'm almost certain Sasha Kleshin and Luis Hernandez are going to be playing in this, competing in this. Sasha used the word compete when he tweeted it, and I will promptly make fun of him if he's not actually playing, but I strongly believe that they are. And that's what I'm talking about with the evolution of this stuff. That's a fun little wrinkle. It's going to be cool as hell to watch Diana Ordonez and Alicia Cervantes compete in this. I love that idea. Goalie Wars that I think they did 2 years ago for the first time. I don't know if they're expanding because it's been the in-stadium entertainment that they'll put out on social later, but it's been for commercial breaks, which I understand fans that aren't around might not love, but you get the content on social. And being in the stadium, that's one of the things that I find to be so much fun. That again, this isn't just what it was in year one. They've continued to evolve it, and like you said, I find something like this more fun than I do the game. The MLB at the Home Run Derby Monday night. I look forward to that more than the MLB All-Star Game. The NBA Skills Challenge. The 3-point contest more than anything else I find to be extremely fun. More so than the All-Star Game, right? So that's where I'm at generally, sport by sport. I think that this is, at least, this is going to be better than the MLS All-Stars playing Arsenal, a cohesive team that are trying to prepare for their season. I think that's silly. I still think it should be MLS East versus West. We have enough extremely talented players to make
ready for East versus West.
100%, absolutely. But I do like the idea of Liga MX. It's just now that this is the third time that they're doing it, I'd imagine that they'll keep on doing this in the future. Maybe they will. Who knows? But my top preference is East versus West. This would be the second MLS versus Liga MX. But I digress. Anyway, all that to say is the skills challenge, man. It's fun. It's a fun evening. Walking around the stadium is super fun. Just kind of being in the mix, it's like a lighthearted, fun event. Right. Whereas you're used to all these people being super serious. Chicharito, when he's been in this for the last couple of years, when he was in MLS at Liga MX, seeing that side of his personality. Hector Herrera, all you usually see him is, putting Weston McKennie in a chokehold in the Mexican national team. And seeing his personality in some of these events is so cool. Naul, a couple years ago, faking an injury when Ricardo Pepi was hot in the the volleys and finishing. That was hilarious. I love seeing these guys' personalities, and I'm sure that they enjoy this too, rather than oh, let me go try to play in a friendly match like on Wednesday night and go full tilt while we have 17 attacking midfielders on the field and then Jose Martinez just being the only one running and playing defensive midfield. So I like this much more.
Let me bring the facts here. So the 4 next pro goalkeepers are coming for goalie wars. Chituro Adunze is coming from Crown Legacy, who's actually already been called into U.S. full international camps, which is ridiculous. And Stas Lapkis is going to be there, who is the Crew 2 goalkeeper. Belarusian, and I believe, I'm going to get this wrong, I think his dad is the fencing coach at Ohio State University, and that's how they ended up in Columbus, which is just a cool thing to happen as well. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think Skills Challenge is super fun. I think it's the best part of the whole week. And I think that it has continued to grow in positive ways. If it was me, the All-Star game, the All-Star festivities would be what I believe USL has done, which is a rematch of last year's MLS Cup. Like, next Wednesday should be a standalone Crew host LAFC in MLS Cup rematch, and like it's basically whatever your Community Shield, whatever you want to call it, all of that. Now,
as a regular season game or as
yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. I was about to say, like, what are you going to make them play another game? No, okay, you're right.
No, so
I
would do the skills challenge on Tuesday night in that city, wherever you've chosen, and then I would have them play as an MLS Cup rematch. Now,
that's interesting.
You lose a little bit of planning time because you don't know where it'll be until MLS Cup happens. But, like, that's also awesome for the team that won MLS Cup. That's a thing they get to host the next year as, like, a way, a time that everyone collects and comes together.
Okay, that's cool, but there's just 0% chance of that happening in reality. Like, how many stadiums?
What?
How many stadiums are in line to host an All-Star game? Like, there's so many.
Who cares?
What do you mean? Who cares? Austin FC cares that they get to host an All-Star game. The team's building like NYCFC when their new stadium opens. Like, they're gonna care.
Then they should win things. They should put together competitive teams. They should win things, and then they get to host those games. Here's my other pitch. I just thought someone walked into my hotel room because the mirror is catching me move so much. It should be small-sided tourney. Like, it should be 4v4, 5v5. Yeah. It doesn't even have to be that big, but like, yeah, and that's what it always should have been, is like have 4 or 5 captains, have them pick teams, do a little fun pickup game. So skills challenge Tuesday night, pickup games on Wednesday, and that's the end of it as well. So that would be my other pitch, but I would like to watch players playing games that don't matter as minimal amount of time as possible in my life. Speaking of games that do matter, Wednesday night, full slate of MLS action. We talked about a couple of the games already. A big piece of news dropping here on this Tuesday afternoon. You were one of the many that tweeted it out after Jim Curtin mentioned that Cavin Sullivan is going to be on the matchday roster for the Philadelphia Union on Wednesday night against the New England Revolution. Curtin said, quote, he has earned it. He has scored in back-to-back games at the MLS Next Pro level. And if he makes his debut in this week, before the Leagues Cup break, he would be the youngest debutant in MLS history. Yes,
he would break the record currently set by Freddie Adu. He doesn't turn 15 until the end of September. This is wild. It's when Jim Curtin said at the press conference in May when he signed his first team contract, he's like, yeah, his debut is sooner than you guys think. Like, we're going to bring him into training. We're going to give him second team on. It was like, that day is going to be sooner than you think. And I was like, wow. So like he has 2.5 months to, if he debuts, to earn a debut, would break Freddie Adu's record. And like, I think announcing that he's on the matchday roster, like, I don't know what would need to happen tomorrow night for him to not play, right? Like 2 red cards? Because I don't even know if 1 red card would do it. Like if somebody on the other team said I'm going to try to injure him, that's about it for me, right? Like I think that he's going to get his debut, and again, if he doesn't, like I would almost guarantee that would happen Saturday. So this is incredibly exciting. This player, throughout my reporting on, like, he's going to Manchester City when he turns 18. That's a part of the clause of this homegrown contract, the most expensive homegrown contract in MLS history. Before that happened, I didn't think that they were going to reach an agreement. I thought that City were just going to say whatever, like MLS is like first, like Philly, and like it has to go through the league or whatever, right? Like Philly's first offer for the homegrown contract was like not closed. It was just like they thought that he was just going to sign with City, and then go to like Lamo or one of their CFG clubs at 16 because Cavin Sullivan has a German passport. He has an EU passport, so he could play outside of England when he turns 16. Again, he's 14 years old, right? I think this is best for his development to be with the Philadelphia Union. But all of this to say, 2.5, 3 months ago, I thought there was no chance we were going to see this kid in MLS. I thought it was just going to go straight to City Football Group in Manchester. So I think this is really exciting. I think it is better for his development. He's got 500 minutes thereabouts in MLS Next Pro, 2 goals and an assist. This kid has been under the spotlight more so than anyone really since maybe Freddie Adu for like a kid of his age. Like when you go to GA Cup, guys, you know better than anybody. Wherever Cavin Sullivan's field is, that's where the crowd is. That's where the hype is. When you go to MLS Next Fest or the playoffs or whatever, right? Like whatever field Cavin Sullivan and whatever Philly team he's playing on, that's where all the people are. Like this kid in his opening press conference, 14 years old, maturity beyond his years. I talked to people, like I did a really big story at The Athletic, like talking to people around him, and it's just like, yo, this kid's mentality is different, man. Like that's why he's going to make it. Like there was a story that somebody told me of like they were playing the Tampa Bay Rowdies in preseason. Adult grown men, USL Championship team, a very good USL Championship team. And it's like they were like, Tom, like he's trying to run through people, right? Like he is fearless. He is not fake tough. He's real tough. And again, that's a kid. He's called a diamond by somebody I talked to at US Soccer. And I jokingly said, like, it must have been really hard to identify and scout him, right? You really had to pull him out. His talent jumps off the page. His flair jumps off the page. The kid is like, he's ready to be a star, I think. And the way that he's handled all of this attention, like, that's why I don't doubt that Wednesday, if he does indeed debut as I'm expecting him to. So I don't doubt that, like he scored on his assisted on his MLS Next Pro debut, right? Like, if there's anybody who's ready for the moment, I think it's him.
I agree. I also think these are all the advantages of every team plays the same system through the club. So his role is clearly identified for him of like, you can put a player out there who probably isn't 100% ready because you've built some safeguards in to allow them to get the experience and not be exposed. You have a club that also has a lot of players who are really experienced in helping players through this moment. Like, if he gets on the field, you know that a Leon Flock and Alejandro Bedoya and like all of them are kind of going to be there and guide it along and help. He's obviously absurdly talented. He's grown a ton physically over the last year and a half, which I think has made a lot of this more possible and less Maxi Carrizo, what we saw, and Bento Estrella with the Red Bulls and NYC, where it's like they were signed because they had options other places and they think they'll play, but like we're 4 or 5 years away from that at an MLS level, and that wasn't what happened with Cavin Sullivan. And it wasn't just because of the Man City offer. It's because he's physically capable of doing it. He is super impressive. He's 2-footed. He can play, he can go both ways. He connects the game. He does a lot of work off the ball that's really fun to watch. Like, he'll set himself up so that he can dummy it and let it run and then go find the bounce, he'll then bounce the pass with them and all that stuff. So, yeah, if you haven't seen him play, I'd recommend going and just watching the highlights of the 2 goals he scored and some of the stuff that's gone up about him and what he's capable of. And this is one of those unique families where Quinn Sullivan cannot be like, oh, I debuted at professional soccer at 17 years old. How cool am I? Because his little brother's going to have him beat on that one, which is nuts and a crazy part about the Sullivan family as they go forward. Let's jump in fully now. Let's go ice cream shop here, Tom. Let's get your scoops. Let's get out there and let's talk a little transfers.
Yeah, so first up, Fabrizio Romano put out that Empoli want to sign Martin Paes, FC Dallas goalkeeper, on loan with a purchase option. I'm told that no official offer has been submitted because it has been the message has been delivered to Empoli. We will not even consider a loan option. So it remains to be seen if an offer comes. Somebody I spoke to at Dallas doesn't believe that permanent immediate offer is going to come from Empoli, but that doesn't mean that that's definite, and that doesn't mean that there aren't more teams interested. I've gotten a couple calls from people about him for like the last 18 months. Like, he was a known commodity when he was in Europe. It was a really good signing, I thought, by Dallas to bring him in. He's been one of the best goalkeepers in MLS this year. He's an all-star. Part of that is his new national team and a lot of voting for him, but he's there on merit. I'd say I would have had him as one of the top 3 goalkeepers in MLS this year. So we'll see what happens there. But as far as just the Empoli link, at the moment, doesn't seem like anything's imminent, according to sources.
So should we start being like we're really interested in Martin Paes as the goalkeeper for Soccerwise and just see if we can fake it and make it a thing after that.
No, but like this, like again, I know that I've used this example a few times, but like when Nuhu was at his like top, like one of the best defenders in the league when he was playing left center back and like coming off international duty where he locked up Mo Salah, and it's like, oh, why didn't they sell him? And it's like, well, the only offers they got was a free loan where they pay half his salary. Like that's something like this. Like, why in the world would Dallas do a loan here, right? Like, just for what? So the other team can have one of your best players, and you don't have any clarity on if he's going to stay or leave in the middle of your season. So like these things happen, and I do like I think he's worth a semi-significant transfer offer.
He's been fantastic. Yeah. He is one of the best goalkeepers in MLS at his age, his profile. Yes. Obviously, he came from Europe, so he has the EU passport, so he can go anywhere. This was not a name that was surprising when it came up connected to a European transfer. It was just surprising in the potential structure and somewhat timing of it. I think if Dallas got a legitimate offer, they'd have to consider because like they've proven they can make this work. Because at this point in the summer, you can try and make the loan for the next guy for the rest of this year, and then you execute it as a buy in January. Again, we saw the Revs. It worked for them, 2 out of 3 times. So you're taking the risk. Maybe this is the right time to take the risk if you're Dallas because you're not very good. But there's no doubt that Martin Paes is a game changer for them. He's a match winner for them. And there's no reason for them to sort of move on without him if not necessary. Dallas plays Copa Tejas on Wednesday night, coming off the 2-0 victory against LA Galaxy, one of their best performances so far under Peter Lutzien, they've been a little up and down, but at least there's been some ups in there as well. What do you make of the fact that there are animals in the wild out in Austin, that the wolf out sign that was flown over was missing an F, so therefore it was just the animal wolf and not Josh Wolf from the Austin FC supporters.
Maybe that's plausible deniability. Can't be liable if it's like we were talking about like the literal animal. So I respect that. I do respect that.
Yeah, we were just worried about wolves all around. Now, you'd think Josh Wolf would be safe until at least Bukhari and some of these pieces come in that they have bought to go into the system and be a part of this team.
Yeah.
Copa Tejas would be a nice one to steal a little momentum. Like a win in a game like this steals you another week 2, 3 of like, oh, well, they won a big game. They've bounced up and down. You get crushed by your rival. Like that's kind of one of those results where we see a TFC make a big move all of a sudden, with Bill Manning right after they lose to Forge and stuff like that as you go forward.
Yeah, and like I want to say on merit, like there should be questions about his job security. What I would look at is, again, like last year when Rodolfo Borrell said, he's like, I wouldn't have taken this job if I didn't want to keep Josh Wolf. That's where I was this winter. I was like, I just don't think that there's any chance that they're going to make a change. But a year on from that statement is enough of a sample size, enough of a time that you go from like whether or not Rodolfo Borrell could still believe in him, but it's still at some point it would be time. So these questions are fair is kind of what I want to underwrite that conversation with.
Let's keep rolling here. Let's talk a little Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota United, they're going to be one of the most active teams this summer, I do believe, including trying to add a designated player. Kelvin Yeboah, he currently plays for Genoa. I'm assuming, I feel pretty confident that this would be a DP spot, but again, I don't know that for sure. This is all fluid. They're in talks, nothing that's about to be signed or imminent. He's a versatile attacker. He seems to have played mostly center forward when he was on loan with Standard Liège. He had 6 goals and 2 assists in about 1,100 minutes. He's also spent time on loan at Augsburg and Montpellier. He broke through his professional career in Austria, and his real breakthrough was with Sturm Graz, where he had 13 goals and 7 assists in the first half of the 21-22 season, which prompted Genoa to buy him. And he hasn't really broken in with regularity to the Genoa team. That's why he's been loaned out a few times. But this is the profile of a player that I think more MLS teams should be looking at or trying to target. Early prime, he's 24 years old, somebody with experience in multiple leagues. Like, I'm going to sound like Garth Lagerwey. This is his whole thing, like when he looks for a DP. But early prime, entering his prime forward who has experience and excelled. Like, he's done very well in Belgium. He's done very well in Austria. It's not the same as a Premier League in Serie A, right? But that's still a really good resume, and that shows really good adaptability that you were able to go to these different teams and all of these loans that he's been on.
Yeah, and we see this for MLS teams of can you find a player who has that experience life-wise to try and make it a little bit quicker. Put this in like context with me. Is this just like talents available, or is this like last piece instead of Reynoso? Is this instead of Pukki? It just feels like there is a lot of money that has been spent on the attack. It is not flowing perfectly, and I don't know the dream scenario of like where all of these fit together.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, but I would point to his positional versatility. He's gotten plenty of time on either wing. He's played as like a second forward. Again, while I say that most of his appearance, or more of his appearances, have come at center forward. Like, look at what Eric Ramsey has prioritized this year with Minnesota United. A lot of positional versatility. And this is somebody who, like, you could make the argument he won't, like, you could play him and Tanny. You can play him and Tanny. Like, Jong Sang-bin, same thing. Like, you can play wide, you can play through the center. Like, you go kind of through that attack. And I think in modern soccer, and particularly what Eric Ramsey and Khalid El Ahmad want from this team, is that positional versatility and players who have general principles of how they want to play, high energy, transition, up tempo, all of that, younger players, but that, like Jong Sang-bin, I think is a really good example of. Came here as a winger, maybe could play some 10. He's played a little bit at center forward in a pair. And just like he has the dynamic pace, dribbling ability, directness, and press and work rate. Like those are the pillars, and then he could play a couple different positions. So that's what I think Minnesota prioritizes.
Yeah, it feels like similar to Bongi signing, and as you said, similar to Sang-bin, like young talent, figure it out a little bit as you go along. Sang-bin played right wing back this weekend against Houston, so Minnesota in a bad spot right now, trying to figure it out. And then they're making more moves, right?
They're trying to sign Panama international center back Edgardo Farina. He played right center back in a back three at the Copa America. He was one of the better defenders. And I don't know if this deal is going to get done. In fact, I've been told a little bit pessimistic on this, that they thought they were close. And then a European team, I believe a team from Russia, has come in late and they might hijack the deal. And again, the last update I heard was a little bit pessimistic. But it's, I think, important to bring up, one, the profile, and two, the position.
Right.
And that, like, it's not just that they want to add one DP to the attack. Like, this is a team that's going to be in evolution. And Khalid El Ahmad didn't really take over until preseason already started. They didn't hire Eric Ramsey until, like, he didn't make his debut until the early March. So they had a really strong start to the season, and that was ahead of schedule. And it turns out it was a bit of a mirage. Like, they weren't actually the fourth best team in the Western Conference. Surprise, surprise. So the way that this is being viewed is that this is a long-term build, right? Whoever they bring in, like, I think to your point about Yeboah, whether or not he makes 1,000% sense with, like, Teemu Pukki, right? I don't think that matters. I think it's, we're overturning the roster how we want it to be, and let's get long-term building blocks to put in this team.
Yeah. Farina feels like one of those, and you can talk to a lot of MLS teams about the ones that this happened with. Man, we really wish he hadn't played this well at Copa America. Like, and it's partially on the team. If they had sealed the deal in May, right, he'd be coming, and that'd be fine. And, like, I still remember Ziggy Schmidt sitting with me at a Gold Cup game talking about when Brian Ruiz came in and trained with Columbus on a trial before he ended up going to Europe because they thought they were going to sign him as like an unknown Costa Rican, and he ends up going on and becoming one of the best CONCACAF players of all time. There are a lot of stories like this, and you see this a lot this time of year where MLS team thinks they've got sort of the beat on a CONCACAF player, and then international competition elevates their profile. I think this is like slightly a replacement for Kervin Arriaga and just a versatile defender. Now you bring another piece in. Boxall is, one, going to the Olympics, two, not going to be around forever. Center back is a weak position for this. But also in Rosales and Arriaga, they have gotten two really good signings out of Central America. I was shocked in watching Copa America, some of the talent, especially the young talent in Costa Rica and Panama that has not been brought already to Major League Soccer. Miller on Costa Rica, one of the best young center backs in the region, and now Farina as well. So this would be a really cool move. I'd be really excited about this one, both for the team as well as just, I think, the league getting a player like this in there as well. Let's finish up with some updates. Hear from you on some of the ones that we've been tracking as we've gone along. Soccerwise basically is the Moist Bombito transfer show. So what's our latest?
Yeah, I mean, so Moist Bombito is back in training with Colorado Rapids. He's spoke with Chris Armas again in person, obviously coming back to train. He's spoken with the front office as well. Colorado and Leon are still in talks about a potential deal. There's still no breakthrough. There's still nothing agreed. Bombito wants this move. He believes that Leon will be good for his development, will be good for the next step of his career. They have told him that this would be direct to Leon, but again, with Eagle Football Holding, the same thing with Thiago Almada went to Botafogo before he's going to go to Leon. So that option is there in case that there's any worry about playing time. But again, I've been told comprehensively that what they're selling Moise Bombito on is that you're going to Leon and we view you in the first team right now. So if that's the case, people in Colorado understand that. They as long as the valuation gets a little closer or hits their valuation, that's where this is going to be. And right now that's where it is. But we'll see if there's any pressure that Bombito would put on the Colorado Rapids, though. They do know that he does want that move.
So we continue on with that one. As we roll along, he could join Theo Bair in France. It is the new location of Canadian players. Obviously, Jonathan David there. We don't expect him to be there very long. And Ismail Kone now at Marseille. So it's for Canadians, you just got to get your League On streaming package going, which is probably hard to find because they can't even get one in their own country. Just announced his retirement moments before we started this show. He is a DC United legend. He is one of the great stories, I think, that we continue to see after every time we say, what's the use of college soccer and how does draft still affect this league? You continue to see players like him who come out and are borderline all-stars immediately. He was in the national team conversation for a little while, but could never stay healthy. And that's really unfortunate to see. But to me, the moment I'll actually remember, besides how nice he was, always a pleasure to interact with, gave me honeymoon advice as well, which ended up being super useful out the back end. So I'll pass that along to you, Tom. It's like the legacy jacket that the White House press corps all passes along as they go along. But to me, weirdly, and not even a thing he did, is when Kevin Paredes left DC United and was sold to Wolfsburg, they put up a video of him sort of thanking the team and saying goodbye. And he turned and said, to play like legends I grew up watching, play with legends I grew up watching, like Steve Birnbaum, this is such an honor to be a part of this club. And you need people like that in clubs, and you need them to stay. We always talk about Europe and what's the move and what's the move. You need club cornerstones. You need legacy players. Steve Birnbaum's been that for that team. He was with them for only a couple high moments, the early Ben Olsen days with him, and then the Wayne Rooney years and stuff like that. But he, when on the field, was one of the best center backs in Major League Soccer and a huge part of that club. And so it's really unfortunate to see him not get to decide when and how he wants to go out. So a big moment for the club. So I think just a shout out to a player like that for what he's done for that team and for the league. You want to close out on a fun question?
Of course.
So we have here in the Discord or Patreon from someone named Captain Crunch, who said Goss called Evander being 2024 MLS MVP candidate last year. So let's go me. He says, who are the finalists for the 2025, quote, too early for anyone sane to call Goss MVP candidate? So it is an absurd thing to say, but then you're justified 8 months later when it hits, which is the greatest feeling. Also, doesn't even have to win it because you just have to call them a candidate. They don't even have to be a winner in the end. I feel great about the Evander call. He is so much fun to watch. Portland was really fun this weekend. The front attacking four when they're all healthy, and now Eric Williamson involved with it as well, is legit. They are not good defensively. That's the dream scenario. As a neutral who watches MLS, the dream scenario is that Portland can't defend, and they keep attacking and keep opening up spaces. I've got one or two names bouncing around. You want to go first?
I got one. In the spirit of talking about the Golden Boot draft, in which I drafted Portland's DP number 9 before he had been signed. Atlanta United DP number 10, whoever they signed this summer, is going to be 2025.
Say a real person?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't care. If it's Mranichuk, I'm good with that. If it's somebody else, I trust Garth Lagerwey to make that right decision.
Okay. All right. I've got 3 names.
Go ahead.
I have Georgi Mihailovic. I've got Emil Forsberg, depending on
I like that.
if he stays and what he chooses to do.
I like that.
And Liel Abada, who's been really good really quickly. I don't think he'll be an MVP for his team, like as a type of player. But also, if they do add a 10, and now you're the goal scoring winger coming off that, and obviously Patrick Aujamong's carrying the load up top, just like 7 defenders, Megs, vision, everything, soccer IQ, best player in the league. Then you've got an opportunity, but he's hit pretty quickly on a team where it's not super easy to do. So it's kind of giving me Evander vibes of like has a bunch of responsibility and you feel underwhelmed at times, but that's because it's probably too much too early. And if the team can form around it, it can all hit. But I would be happy to be wrong and for it to be Cole Bassett next year, but I don't think that's going to happen at the end of all of that. So thank you to Tom for being here. Shout out to Charlie Fiction for our producer helping things out. I will be back tomorrow live 2 p.m. Eastern time with Jordan here on YouTube and Twitch. Go to our Patreon to subscribe. MVP level, we'll do our first live happy hour tomorrow around 6:30 going into the MLS games. And then we're going to continue to do that going forward. We've just got to work around Tom's game schedule because Tom's not allowed to have a beer on days in which he plays in his men's league. I don't have any games this week because I'm out in Vegas. If anyone knows of pickup in Vegas, I brought my cleats. So if anyone knows of a pickup spot.
What is wrong with you? It's like 175 degrees there.
My assumption is it's inside. There's no way people out here are playing outdoors. This is like
maybe they're built differently, dude.
Maybe if they are
6 a.m. pickup.
If they are, I'll go sweat with them. I went and knocked the ball around in the park on Friday in Prospect Park, and immediately you're in pickup with like one guy from Senegal, one guy from Trinidad and Tobago. Everyone's just naming players. Diego Maradona, Pele. They called me Bronislav Ivanovic, which was like not that far off. Yeah. It's not the best.
I love that so much.
Not the best one I've ever heard. So listen, I'm here for it. Well, I also brought it for Columbus. If anyone wants me to play pickup with them in Columbus, let me know as well. And that would be a ton of fun. Jump into the Patreon, subscribe, go to all our socials, Soccerwise HQ on Twitter and Instagram or X, whatever you want to call it as well. And of course, if you're in Columbus, come out to the show on Monday. We'll continue talking about it. We'll continue promoting it. We are so excited for our first live event. We'll be hanging for the most part, as well as recording a show at times as well. So we'll see you very soon. Enjoy the show, everyone, and we'll talk to you again. Forgot about our exit song.